Waiting sucks. Like right now, you're probably getting frustrated because I'm making you wait for the end of the sentence. That probably drove you crazy. Steve Tsao, the author of Designing and Engineering Time, says uncertainty is a disease and information is usually the cure. Why do you think we have those loading bars or those circles that fill up when you download something? To stop people from going into wait rage. So time actually stretches when we get mad. Research shows that about half of you out there will abandon a website if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. That's 3 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and you flip over your desk. Well, right now, we're all playing the waiting game with pretty much zero information. And it's driving some people crazy. I've even heard it described as being like a prisoner in your own home. So, I thought I'd share some useful tips from an actual prisoner of war, Commander James Stockdale. His story is crazy. He was a high-ranking fighter pilot shot down over Vietnam in enemy territory, and within 30 seconds of his parachute landing, he was severely beaten by 10 to 15 villagers who were made to just hate Americans. He was beaten so bad that his leg was broken. And multiple times over the 7 years while he was in prison, he's endured a very particular type of torture where your hands are tied tightly behind your back and they're lifted up so you were essentially bent in half, face to your ankles, and it would cut off your body's circulation and cause severe pain and claustrophobia. It was called taking the ropes. He said, quote, "These were the sessions where we were taken down to submission and made to blurt out distasteful confessions of guilt and American complicity into tape recorders, and then be put into what I call a cold soak for a month or so of total isolation to contemplate our crimes." So essentially, new prisoners were made to shout uncle and admit shame and wrongdoing, then put in isolation for a month or two. I mean, the whole purpose of the prison was to get them to break, to become sorry and publicly do it while they were being filmed and admit that America was wrong and weak. So after that, they'd be put in a cell block back with everybody else, feeling worthless and like they betrayed their country. But other prisoners would let them know it was okay. They all broke. And they would tell them, "We're all in this together." Sound familiar? Stockdale was the highest ranking soldier there, so he took command of the prisoners, of which there grew to be about over 400. They used a tap code network to communicate, where they would tap on the walls to each other to spell out words. They formed a social group, made laws and customs, decided what they would let them do, what they would let the guards do, and what they would be tortured for not letting the guards do to them. They developed support and community from their own little lonely cells, all in there by themselves. Right? That kind of support encouraged one soldier during a torture session for information. The guards wanted names of American soldiers who were fighting against the war, meaning that they didn't want the war and they were working against America who was in the war. So the soldier being tortured told the guards about 2 pilots who had turned in their wings in opposition to the war. Their names were Lieutenant Clark Kent and Ben Casey, 2 fictional characters. Vietnam aired it in their propaganda videos as a success. And when they found out it was a joke, they put the soldier through 4 months of torture. So eventually the guards were sick of the antics and rounded up the 10 they determined to be the ringleaders, Stockdale included. And they were put into an isolation room by themselves, not together, but by themselves, for 3 to 4 years. When asked which was more effective, the torture of taking the ropes or the long-term isolation, Stockdale said it was the isolation. He said you can get used to repeated rope torture. There are some tricks for minimizing your losses in that game. But keep a man, even a very strong-willed man, in isolation for 3 or more years, and he starts looking for a friend, any friend, regardless of nationality or ideology. Eventually, the war was over, and they were released, and Commander James Stockdale was awarded the Medal of Honor. Stockdale's organization and support for one another was legendary and gave the captured American troops something they could control in an uncontrollable situation. When they were finally released, one of the head prison guards said, "You Americans were nothing like the French. We could count on them to be reasonable." His story has inspired one famous writer to coin something called the Stockdale paradox, which is you must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Essentially, know that something hard will end, but accept it while it's happening. Our situation and their situation are obviously different. However, there are some things we can learn from his story to help us get through our story. I've seen people express their frustration with the quarantine not ending on social media. Someone said, "Just knowing a date would be so helpful." But they can't give us a date. Dr. Anthony Fauci has repeatedly said, "You don't make the timeline. The virus makes the timeline." But some people are making timelines in their heads. It better be over by May. It better be over by June. That's not helpful. After the war, Stockdale commented about some soldiers who did just this while they were prisoners. He called them the optimists, those who believed, quote, "We're going to be out by Christmas," and Christmas would come and Christmas would go. Then they say, "We're going to be out by Easter," and Easter would come and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then it would be Christmas again, and they died of a broken heart. Sounds similar to what some of us are going through. When I heard that, I decided to change the way I thought about the end of this quarantine. Because what will happen when August or September comes and things aren't back to normal? You could feel like you are dying of a broken heart. A reporter has said that Stockdale's approach was to come up with a way of actually functioning in the current circumstances in which he found himself, so he could deal with that day in, day out for as long as it went on. The goal is to not get angry or depressed, hopeful or dismal. It's to be somewhere in the middle. That's where patience lives. The root word of patience is to suffer. So it's amazing that we sometimes picture being patient as some state of mind we can achieve where it becomes easy, even pleasant. Sarah Schnittker, an unfortunate last name, but she's a professor of psychology, has said that patience is not minimizing the pain, it's holding the pain. Stockdale said he did this by separating everything into 2 files, things within your power and things without. Right? I call these facts and thoughts. We want to be problem solvers, but it's important to realize what is an actual problem. If you can't change it, it's not a problem. Problems can be solved, and our thoughts are something that can be changed. A problem that can't be changed is called a gravity problem. You can fight, protest, and try all you want, but you ain't ever going to get rid of gravity. Just like Stockdale was not going to get out of that prison, and our world isn't going to go back to normal anytime soon. In moments like this, when you're sick of waiting, we want to rebel. We want to stand up and fight and say, "This is America!" But it's important to know which area, which file in your brain you should put that energy to use in. And accepting the facts of your circumstance might seem like a form of giving up or being weak, but which is more weak? Saying, "I'll survive, I'll conquer in these areas that I can control." Or yelling till you're red in the face, "Down with gravity, it's unfair," until you feel frustrated, broken, and helpless because nothing's changing. So yes, waiting does suck. Patience isn't easy, but focus on the things you can control. It doesn't mean the pain from being tortured will stop, but the anger and frustration about it can go away. And you can find a sense of normalcy and control in this uncontrolling time. I'm Joey Massio. Thanks for watching.